Hello and welcome to my inaugural anti-haul video. I really feel like anti-hauls are like the video that is meant for me. Like meant for me, who I am as a person and for my channel. I feel like it just fits me very well. If you're not familiar with anti-hauls and the concept of anti-hauls, the first place that I saw anti-hauls, and I'm pretty sure she started it, is on Kimberly Clark's channel. If you're not familiar with Kimberly Clark, she has a fantastic channel because A, her makeup tutorials are amazing, but then B, she also does a lot of like really informative, really like well done teaching videos, basically. She got a whole video in her Listen Up series about gender, to talk about gender. She got a whole video in her Listen Up series on consumerism to kind of get you to stop shopping. She's recommended a whole bunch of like documentaries on stopping shopping that I've actually seen a bunch of them at this point, and they're all very good. So if you're not familiar with Kimberly Clark, definitely recommend checking her out. This light needs to be brighter. Is that better? That looks more even, right? Yes. So the idea of anti-haul videos is not to bash the brand, not to bash the product. You know, it's nothing against, I have nothing against any of these brands, or really nothing personally against any of these products. But the idea is kind of, especially the makeup market is so oversaturated with stuff. And with a consumerist society like we live in, you always want more stuff. And the idea of an anti-haul video is kind of, this is a thing and you don't need it. And here's why you don't need it. So just to get that out there right now, some of these brands I love. Like, I have a Too Faced thing I'm going to talk about in a second. And you know that I love Too Faced. But, you know, sometimes too much is too much. So, actually, let's start with Too Faced. So, recently Too Faced launched the Natural Love palette. This is probably the first palette from Too Faced in a long time that I saw. And, like, no part of me even wanted it. Like, no part of me even looked at this palette and thought, this is the thing that I want in my collection. Usually, every time Too Faced launches something, that flashes in my head like, ooh, pretty, I want it. Not this one. Not this one. I have three main issues with this palette and with the area around this palette. First of all, like, it looks just like a bigger version of like every other Too Faced palette color-wise. You know, it looks a little bit like the Chocolate Bar palette, a little bit like Bonbons. Like, the color scheme is really not unique or original for Too Faced in the slightest. Looking at just the colors in this palette, I don't really want it because I feel like I already have it. And I feel like I even already have it by Too Faced, you know what I mean? It just, the colors I don't really find particularly inspiring. Issue number 2 with this palette is it is huge. Like, this is a physically big palette. And I know that if I had it, I would never use it because I would never want to pull out a palette as big as, you know, 3-foot-tall me to use, you know, a couple little colors here or there, because really how many colors of eyeshadow do you use in one look, right? So I know that I would never ever pull for it because it's just too big. And my third issue with the Too Faced Natural Love palette is lately Too Faced has been really inconsistent with their limited edition launches. I'm not sure when it started, but I feel like every time Too Faced launches a limited edition palette, I watch reviews or whatever and we read articles and that sort of thing, there's always very like people who like it and people who hate it, but there's never really anybody who loves it. Whereas when Too Faced comes out with a palette that is permanent, like the Chocolate Bar palettes or Bonbons or whatever, everybody across the board seems to love it. So I don't know what the issue is with their manufacturing or what they're doing. I haven't looked into it, so I have no idea. But whenever Too Faced has a limited edition launch, that actually deters me from it more. I know that the idea of limited edition is like, it's only limited, you should get it now, but I almost feel like it makes me like not want it a little more because they've been a little sketchy with the quality of their limited edition products. Like I said before, I love Too Faced. I have the Bonbons palette and the Sweet Peach palette now, and I think they're the only high-end brand that I have more than one palette from, to be honest. But that palette's just not for me. Kind of on a similar idea, another palette that's been kind of popular lately that I just like, I think the idea flashed in my head that I wanted, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no. It's the Tarte Pro palette, the eyeshadow palette, not the contour palette. Contour palettes are like way all over the place, and everybody's got a contour palette. Like, we're not even going to touch that, but I'm talking about the eyeshadow palette. The eyeshadow palette, to me, really does, similar to the Too Faced palette, look like you just took a whole bunch of Tarte palettes and put them together, and that's what you have. I know that might be kind of the idea of the Tarte Pro palette, but if you have any other Tarte palettes, you don't need this one. Another really super overhyped palette situation that exists that I see all over YouTube that everyone seems to love that I've never really seen any negative comments about, but I kind of have a negative feeling towards, are the Anastasia Glow Kits. Now, I feel like as individual pans, these are probably amazing highlighters and probably amazing products, but especially for someone as pasty as me, I am in no way going to be able to use all 4 shades in these glow kits as highlighters. It'd be like 1 highlighter, maybe, if it's light enough for my pale skin, and then 3 eyeshadows that I'm paying, like, what, $40 for? I don't know that you can buy the pans individually yet. I feel like that would be super beneficial to Anastasia Beverly Hills, because if I could buy 1 pan, I'd be way more likely to buy one. Just like I buy, like, a Becca highlighter. It's probably the same price as the whole ABH glow kit. But I know I'm not going to use all of those colors in that glow kit like ever, so it feels like a waste of money and space to me. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a makeup artist, I can't use all 4 colors as highlighters, or 6 colors, whichever palette you're looking at. That makes me not want it, because then that feels wasteful. In the words of Kimberly Clark herself, I don't need it. I'm not going to buy it. I gotta tell you right now, for this last product that I want to mention, I am here for Urban Decay. Like, I feel like when I first started branching out on YouTube and watching other YouTubers, other than, like, the 3 that I started watching, Urban Decay was, like, the shit, because that was when the naked palettes were big. So, like, everybody on the internet loved Urban Decay, and we're talking about Urban Decay, and I really feel like I've come to watch them fall off the map a little bit over the last year or so, which is really sad, because, like, I'm here for it. And I feel like I like the idea of the Vice lipstick collection, of having all their lipsticks under one roof, but I feel like they made a big mistake launching all 100 at once, because it's kind of that method. I think it has a name, but I can't remember what it's called. You know, you give people too many choices, and they just give up and they can't choose. You know what I mean? So by launching 100 at once, I really like the Urban Decay lipstick formula. I have one from the Gwen Stefani collection when that was a thing, but I can't choose another one because there's just too many options. They launched too many at once, so I go there and I look at the Vice lipstick collection and I go out like, blah, I don't know what I'm doing, and you know what I mean? So I really feel like if Urban Decay had like done it a little more gradual, then it would have done better. But still, that's not what we're talking about. What I want to mention is the Naked Ultimate Basics palette. I can't lie to you. This crossed my mind as a want. But the issue with the Naked Ultimate Basics palette are 2 things. One, it is huge. It is a very bulky, very thick palette, and I feel like I just don't have the space for it. And issue number 2 is that if you have Naked Basics and Naked 2 Basics, you basically have this palette. With the exception of the couple of mauve and the couple of orangey tones in this palette, there's only like 2 or 3 eyeshadows that even fit that. And I mean, you can find those in other palettes, like the Tartelette or Tartelette Bloom and that sort of thing. You probably already have this whole palette, if we're being honest. And I really feel like Urban Decay over the last year or 2 has changed their eyeshadow formula a little bit, and I don't like it as much, personally. I realize that other people maybe really like this sort of stiffer eyeshadow formula. It definitely doesn't make as much of a mess over your surface or all over the palette, but it's not my favorite. Anyway, thus concludes my very first ever anti-haul video. Please expect many more in the future, because I feel like this works. Let me know in the comments below if there have been any launches recently, or just anything in general that you feel like was really hyped on YouTube, or people just seem to love that you're like, I have no interest in buying that, because I would love to hear that. I would love to hear your perspective on these things. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!